Marcus Wellington had built his empire from nothing. At 42, he owned 3 major tech companies and lived in a mansion that overlooked the city skyline. Money came easily to him now, but happiness remained elusive. His wife had passed away 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old daughter, Emma, alone. The demands of running multiple businesses meant Marcus was rarely home. Board meetings, international flights, and corporate deals consumed his days and nights. He hired the best nannies money could buy, but none lasted long. Emma was a bright child, but she had become increasingly withdrawn since her mother's death. The expensive caregivers complained she was difficult, moody, and refused to follow their structured routines. When his assistant mentioned a woman named Rosa Martinez who needed work, Marcus barely listened to the details. Rosa was different from the previous nannies. She was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and gentle eyes. She had raised 5 children of her own and worked as a housekeeper for wealthy families most of her life. Her English wasn't perfect, but something about her calm presence made Marcus hire her on the spot. Rosa moved into the staff quarters of the Wellington mansion on a Monday morning. Marcus left detailed instructions about Emma's schedule, her private tutors, her dietary restrictions, and the importance of maintaining discipline. He handed Rosa a thick folder containing everything she needed to know about running his household efficiently. The next morning, Marcus flew to Tokyo for a series of business meetings that were expected to last 3 weeks. As his private jet lifted off, he felt the familiar weight of guilt pressing on his chest. Emma had barely looked up from her breakfast when he said goodbye. She had grown accustomed to his departures, accepting them with the resigned sadness of a child who had learned not to expect too much. During his first week in Japan, Marcus called home every evening. Rosa would update him on Emma's day in her careful, accented English. Emma had eaten her meals, completed her lessons with the tutor, and gone to bed on time. Everything seemed to be running smoothly, though Rosa mentioned that Emma was very quiet and spent most of her time alone in her room. As the days passed, Marcus found himself thinking about home more than usual. The business meetings were going well, but something nagged at him. Maybe it was the way Rosa spoke about Emma, not with the clinical detachment of previous caregivers, but with genuine concern. She asked questions about Emma's interests, her favorite foods, what made her smile. These weren't questions the other nannies had bothered to ask. By the second week, Rosa's evening reports began to change subtly. She mentioned that Emma had helped her water the garden, that they had baked cookies together, that Emma had asked her to read a story before bed. Marcus found these updates oddly comforting, though he couldn't quite understand why. His daughter was getting the care she needed, and that was what mattered. The business deal in Tokyo concluded ahead of schedule. What was supposed to be a 3-week trip ended after 16 days. Marcus decided to surprise Emma by coming home early. He didn't call ahead, wanting to see the joy on her face when he walked through the door unexpectedly. His driver picked him up from the airport on a sunny Thursday afternoon. As they pulled into the circular driveway of his mansion, Marcus noticed something different. The usually pristine front garden had what looked like a small fort made of blankets and chairs on the lawn. Colorful chalk drawings covered sections of the stone pathway. His first instinct was annoyance. Rosa was supposed to maintain the property's elegant appearance, not let it become a playground. Marcus entered through the front door, expecting to find Rosa and Emma in the formal living room or the library where Emma usually did her lessons. Instead, the house was filled with an unfamiliar sound that stopped him in his tracks. Laughter, real, genuine, delighted laughter that he hadn't heard from his daughter in months. He followed the sound toward the kitchen, walking quietly so as not to disturb whatever was happening. As he approached the doorway, he could hear Rosa's voice mixing Spanish and English as she spoke, and Emma responding with more animation than he had witnessed since before her mother's illness. Marcus paused at the kitchen entrance, hidden from view. and observed a scene that would change everything he thought he knew about caring for his daughter. What he saw in those first moments would challenge every assumption he had made about what Emma needed to heal from the loss of her mother. The kitchen, usually spotless and formal, had been transformed into something that looked like organized chaos. Flour dusted the marble countertops, mixing bowls sat everywhere, and what appeared to be the remnants of a very messy cooking project covered most available surfaces. But none of that registered as strongly as the sight of his daughter. Emma sat on a stool at the kitchen island, her face smeared with chocolate, wearing an apron that was far too big for her small frame. Her hair, usually pulled back in the neat ponytail that her previous caregivers insisted upon, hung loose around her shoulders. She was giggling as Rosa told her a story in animated Spanish, using her hands to act out what seemed to be a tale about a mischievous cat. Marcus had been gone for over 2 weeks, but his daughter looked different. There was color in her cheeks, brightness in her eyes, and most remarkably, she was smiling. Actually smiling, not the polite, careful expression she usually wore around adults. Rosa stood at the stove, stirring something that smelled incredible. She wore a simple house dress and a flour-dusted apron, her graying hair pulled back in a loose bun. As she cooked, she swayed slightly to music that seemed to exist only in her head, occasionally breaking into soft Spanish songs that made Emma clap her hands. The transformation in his daughter was so dramatic that Marcus found himself frozen in the doorway, afraid that any movement might break the spell of whatever magic Rosa had worked in his absence. Marcus remained hidden in the doorway, watching as Rosa lifted a wooden spoon to Emma's lips for her to taste whatever they were making together. Emma's face scrunched up in concentration, then broke into a wide grin as she gave Rosa an enthusiastic thumbs up. The sight of his daughter's uninhibited joy hit Marcus like a physical blow. When was the last time he had seen Emma this carefree? "Perfecto!" Rosa exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "Now we add just a little more vanilla, yes? You remember what I taught you about vanilla?" Emma nodded eagerly. "It makes everything smell like heaven, and you should always add it with love. Never when you're angry or sad because the food will taste your feelings." Rosa laughed, a rich, warm sound that filled the kitchen. "Exacto. You are such a smart girl, mija. Your mama, she would be so proud of how you help in the kitchen." Marcus expected Emma to withdraw at the mention of her mother, as she always did when the previous caregivers tried to reference her loss. Instead, Emma's smile softened, but remained bright. "Do you think Mama can see us cooking together?" Emma asked, stirring the mixture carefully. "Oh, mi amor, I know she can," Rosa replied, gently guiding Emma's small hands as they worked. "And I think she is smiling so big right now, watching you be brave and try new things. She is probably telling all the other mamas in heaven about what a wonderful daughter she has." Tears stung Marcus's eyes. In all the months since his wife's death, no one had spoken to Emma about her mother with such natural tenderness. The grief counselors, the nannies, even he himself had either avoided the topic entirely or approached it with such clinical care that Emma had learned to shut down whenever her mother was mentioned. "Rosa," Emma's voice became quieter. "Sometimes I forget what Mama's laugh sounded like." Rosa set down her spoon and moved to stand beside Emma, wrapping her arms around the little girl from behind. "That's okay, baby. Sometimes our hearts need to make room for new happy sounds so we don't stay too sad for too long. But you know what? Every time you laugh really big, like you did a minute ago, I think that's your mama's laugh living inside you." Emma leaned back against Rosa's embrace, and Marcus watched his daughter accept comfort in a way she hadn't done with anyone since her mother's funeral. The sight filled him with a mixture of gratitude and something that felt uncomfortably like jealousy. Why couldn't he reach Emma the way this woman could? "Can we put extra vanilla in Papa's cookies too?" Emma asked suddenly. Marcus was startled to realize they were making something for him. "Papa's cookies?" See, we make special cookies for when Papa comes home, Rosa explained to Emma, not knowing that Marcus was listening to every word. Because even busy papas need to know their little girls think about them when they're far away. I missed him, Emma admitted quietly. But I was scared to tell him because he always looks so tired and worried. I don't want to make him more sad. Marcus felt his heart break completely. His 7-year-old daughter was protecting his feelings, carrying the weight of his grief along with her own. How had he been so blind to what she needed? Rosa knelt down to Emma's eye level, flower handprints now decorating her dark dress. Listen to me, mi corazon. Your papa loves you more than all the stars in the sky. Sometimes, grown-ups get so busy trying to take care of everything that they forget the most important thing is spending time with the people they love. But that doesn't mean his love gets smaller. How do you know? Emma asked. Because every night when he calls, the first thing he asks about is you. Not the house, not if I'm doing my job right, but how you are, if you're happy, if you ate your dinner. A papa who doesn't love his little girl doesn't worry about those things. Marcus had to grip the doorframe to steady himself. Rosa had seen something in his nightly phone calls that he hadn't even recognized in himself. Despite his physical absence, despite his emotional struggles, his love for Emma had been evident to this wise woman who barely knew him. The timer on the oven chimed, and Rosa moved to check their creation. As she opened the oven door, the most incredible aroma filled the kitchen. It wasn't just the smell of baking cookies, but something warmer, more complex. It smelled like home, in a way Marcus's sterile, perfectly organized house never had. Perfect timing, Rosa announced, pulling out a tray of golden cookies shaped like stars and hearts. Now, while these cool, we clean up our mess, yes? Your papa likes things neat and tidy. Emma giggled. Papa likes everything perfect. Mama used to say he counted his socks. Did she now? Rosa laughed, beginning to wipe down the counters with practiced efficiency. Well, there's nothing wrong with liking things organized. It means he cares about taking good care of what's important to him. As they cleaned together, Marcus marveled at how naturally Rosa involved Emma in every task. She didn't bark orders or critique the child's efforts. Instead, she made cleaning seem like another fun activity they were sharing. Emma chattered continuously as they worked, telling Rosa about her dreams, her favorite books, her memories of her mother, and her questions about everything from why clouds moved to how birds learned to sing. Rosa listened to every word with the kind of attention that made Emma glow with importance. She answered questions thoughtfully, shared stories from her own children's childhood, and somehow managed to make washing dishes seem like the most interesting activity in the world. When the kitchen was spotless again, Rosa carefully transferred the cooled cookies to a beautiful plate that Marcus recognized as part of his wife's favorite china set. None of the previous caregivers had dared to use anything so valuable, treating Emma's needs as secondary to preserving the pristine condition of his possessions. Now, Rosa said, we make a beautiful table for when Papa comes home. He will be so surprised to see what a good helper you are. They moved to the dining room, where Rosa showed Emma how to fold napkins properly and set the table with care. But this wasn't the rigid formality that usually characterized meals in the Wellington house. Rosa added small touches that made everything feel welcoming. A few flowers from the garden in a simple vase, the plate of homemade cookies as a centerpiece, and 2 glasses of cold milk waiting beside carefully arranged place settings. When Papa comes home, you can show him how you helped make everything, Rosa told Emma as they admired their work. He will be so proud of how grown-up and responsible you are. Emma beamed at the praise, then suddenly looked uncertain. What if he's too tired to care about cookies? Rosa smiled gently. Mija, when someone you love makes something special for you with their own hands, it doesn't matter how tired you are. That kind of gift gives you energy, not takes it away. Trust me on this, okay? Marcus had heard enough. Every assumption he had made about what his daughter needed had been wrong. He had hired caregivers to maintain structure and discipline, to keep Emma's life running efficiently in his absence. But Rosa had given her something infinitely more valuable. She had given her permission to be a child again, to laugh and mess up and express her feelings without fear of being too much trouble. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped into the dining room, making enough noise to announce his presence. "Hello, I'm home." The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Emma's face lit up like sunrise, and she launched herself across the room and into his arms with a force that nearly knocked him backward. For the first time in months, his daughter's embrace felt completely natural, without the careful reserve that had characterized their interactions since her mother's death. "Papa! Papa! You're home early!" Emma's words tumbled over each other in excitement. "We made cookies and cleaned the kitchen, and Rosa taught me how to fold napkins like Mama used to, and we put flowers on the table, and I helped with everything." Marcus held his daughter tightly, overwhelmed by the energy and joy radiating from her small body. Over Emma's shoulder, he saw Rosa standing quietly near the table, her hands clasped in front of her, watching the reunion with a gentle smile. There was flour still dusting her apron, and her hair had escaped its bun in several places, but her eyes were bright with the satisfaction of a job well done. "Rosa," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion he was struggling to control. "Thank you." Those two simple words carried the weight of everything he had witnessed, everything he was beginning to understand about what had been missing from his daughter's life. Rosa nodded, understanding perfectly the depth of gratitude behind his simple thanks. "Papa, you have to try our cookies." Emma grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the beautifully set table. "Rosa taught me that vanilla makes everything taste like love, and we put extra vanilla in yours because we missed you so much." Marcus allowed himself to be led to the table, marveling at the transformation in his daughter. The quiet, withdrawn child he had left 2 weeks ago had been replaced by this animated, chattering little girl who couldn't wait to share every detail of her day. As he sat down, Emma climbed into the chair beside him and pushed the plate of cookies closer. "These are star cookies because Rosa said you're a star, Papa, even when you have to go far away for work," Emma explained seriously. "And these are heart cookies because they're made with heart love, not just regular love." Marcus picked up one of the star-shaped cookies and took a bite. The taste was incredible, but more than that, he could actually taste the love that had gone into making them. These weren't the perfect professional pastries that his previous staff had served. These were slightly uneven, clearly handmade, and absolutely perfect in their imperfection. "This is the most delicious cookie I've ever had," he told Emma honestly, and her smile could have powered the entire city. Rosa moved quietly around the table, pouring coffee for Marcus and refilling Emma's milk glass. "I hope you don't mind, Mr. Wellington," she said carefully. "We got a little enthusiastic in the kitchen today." Marcus looked at this woman who had accomplished in 2 weeks what teams of expensive professionals had failed to do in months. "Rosa, I need to tell you something. I was standing in the kitchen doorway for several minutes before I announced myself. I saw everything." Rosa's eyes widened slightly, and he could see her mentally reviewing everything she and Emma had said, wondering if she had somehow overstepped her boundaries. "What I saw," Marcus continued, "was my daughter laughing, really laughing, for the first time since her mother died. What I saw was Emma being allowed to be messy and silly and 7 years old. What I saw was someone caring for her, not just professionally, but with genuine love." Emma looked between the two adults, sensing the importance of the conversation, even if she didn't understand all the nuances. "I've been doing everything wrong," Marcus admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I thought that keeping everything structured and perfect would help her feel secure. I thought that hiring the most qualified professionals would give her the best care. But what she needed was someone who would let her be human." Rosa's expression softened with compassion. Mr. Wellington, you are not wrong to want good things for Emma, but children, they need more than perfect care. They need to feel safe to make mistakes, to express their feelings, to remember their mama without being afraid it makes others uncomfortable. How did you know what she needed? Marcus asked. Because I am a mama too, Rosa said simply. I know what it feels like to want to protect your child from pain so much that you forget they also need permission to feel joy. Emma is a beautiful, smart, loving little girl. She just needed someone to see that instead of seeing a problem to be managed. Emma had been listening to this exchange with growing understanding. She reached over and took her father's hand in both of hers. Papa, you don't have to be perfect. Rosa says nobody is perfect, not even grown-ups. Marcus looked down at his daughter's small hands holding his and felt something shift fundamentally inside his chest. Emma, I'm so sorry. I've been so afraid of doing the wrong thing that I stopped doing the right things. I've been so busy trying to take care of you that I forgot how to just be with you. It's okay, Papa, Emma said, with the generous forgiveness that only children possess. Rosa says when people make mistakes, the important thing is that they fix them and do better next time. Marcus looked at Rosa, who was discreetly wiping tears from her eyes with the corner of her apron. Rosa, I have a proposition for you. I don't want you to be Emma's caretaker anymore. Both Emma and Rosa looked stricken, and Marcus quickly continued before they could misunderstand. I want you to be part of our family, not as staff, but as the grandmother Emma never got to have. I want you to help me learn how to be the father Emma deserves, not just the provider I've been. Emma's face exploded with joy, and she bounced in her chair. Really, Papa? Rosa can stay forever and ever? If she wants to, Marcus said. Looking at Rosa with hope and vulnerability he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Rosa was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus realized he was holding his breath waiting for her answer. Finally, she smiled, the kind of smile that transforms an entire face. Mr. Wellington, I would be honored to be part of your family, but I have one condition. Anything, Marcus said immediately. You call me Abuela Rosa, like Emma does. And you let me teach you how to make cookies, too, because a papa should know how to make treats for his little girl. Marcus laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in longer than he could remember. I think I can manage that, Abuela Rosa. Over the following months, the Wellington mansion transformed from a museum-perfect showcase into a real home. Marcus restructured his business commitments, hiring more executives to handle the day-to-day operations while he focused on being present for Emma's childhood. He learned to bake cookies that were deliciously imperfect, to appreciate chalk art on his pristine driveway, and to find joy in the beautiful chaos that comes with allowing a child to truly live. Rosa moved from the staff quarters into the guest suite that connected to Emma's room, becoming the stabilizing presence that allowed both father and daughter to heal from their grief. She taught Marcus that love wasn't demonstrated through perfection, but through presence, patience, and the willingness to let life be messy sometimes. Emma bloomed under the attention of two adults who loved her unconditionally. Her laughter became a regular sound in the house. Her creativity was encouraged rather than contained, and her memories of her mother were honored as treasures rather than treated as sources of pain to be avoided. The day Marcus realized how completely their lives had changed came 6 months later, when he arrived home from work to find Emma and Rosa in the kitchen again, this time teaching his elderly mother how to make empanadas. The kitchen was a disaster, flour everywhere, 3 generations of women laughing together as they worked, and it was the most beautiful sight he had ever witnessed. That night, as he tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at him with sleepy contentment and said, Papa, I think Mama sent us Rosa. Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead and whispered back, I think you're absolutely right, sweetheart. as he turned off Emma's bedroom light. Marcus reflected on how a simple act of coming home unexpectedly had revealed everything he needed to know about creating a real family. Sometimes the most profound changes come not from grand gestures, but from the quiet wisdom of someone who understands that love is best expressed through attention, patience, and the courage to let others be beautifully, imperfectly human.